Darkness falls, and with it, the truth emerges. In a world where the line between fact and fear is blurred, beneath the surface of forgotten towns and restless graves, hide secrets soaked in blood and whispers that never die. From the chilling depths of true crime to the unexplained shadows of the paranormal, we dive into the stories that haunt both past and present. Welcome to Realm of Darkness.
We're back. We made it work.
And it all worked well, kind of
well.
smoothly.
Yeah.
The
Hey,
videos.
we're live. We're live now. That's all that matters. We're here. We're back.
And with the right title.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Ashley, how are you? What's been going on?
I am good. I feel like we haven't been on here in a really long time, but it's been holidays and it's been a couple weeks. So how are you?
I'm tired.
Aside from being buried in tonight.
It was buried in a foot of snow outside. I love it. I love it so much. Western New York is the best.
I would say we didn't get the snow. I mean, we got a little bit of snow, but we got mostly like ice. So my son was super excited to not have to go to school today. And he doesn't have school tomorrow or on Monday. So he's living his best life.
So he's doing good. He's doing good.
Yeah, he's loving it.
You know who's not doing good?
Who?
Mr. P. Diddy. And that's who we're going to talk about tonight, Ashley. I've been very excited about this one since I think you told me about the documentary on Netflix, and I ended up watching it. I'm like, all right, there's some stuff that we could talk about there.
So, and I have to admit, the documentary, I only found out about it because I have, this running joke between me and you about Petty and Be Your Best Petty. And I love 50 Cent. And I had seen something about him. It was like an interview or something like that. And he had mentioned that he bought all of this footage that Diddy had filmed and didn't use. And he was like, well, I'm gonna release it. And that's how I found out. I'm like, oh, Nate's gonna love this. You have to watch it.
He's a new Petty hero of mine, just for everything he in the doc. Because a lot of the documentary was, I'm going to say, it's definitely obviously anti-Diddy because 50 Cent's not a fan of Diddy, and he's not shy about saying it either. So, but a lot of it, like accusatory stuff that's pretty deep, if in the grand scheme of things. So, it's not, some of it. I mean, a lot of it is, like stories from people and whatnot, that may or may not be true. We got to say that right off the bat because it is a documentary, one-sided piece. It's not like it's all facts, I guess. But there's a lot in there. There's a lot of go over, and obviously, Diddy's in jail now. He's in jail for another. He was in. I think they gave him a 40-month sentence or something like that. So I think
he ended up receiving a total of 50-month sentence with time served. Which, after we go over this, I don't think it's enough, especially with the documentary, because with all of this, the main person who kind of started this whole ball unraveling was Cassie. And she was so incredibly brave to come out with everything that she did. But she also gave all these people a platform to finally feel safe to come out and tell their story and tell their side of what Diddy did, what Diddy did to them. And it starts from the beginning. I mean, he really was a monster not as a child and not in high school, but once he got in that music industry, he turned nasty and he was out for nobody but himself.
One of the quotes I wrote down, like from almost the very beginning of the Netflix documentary, one of his former bodyguards said money can get, like, he felt like money could get him out of anything, and that's the kind of lifestyle you see through all these stories and everything.
Well, and it's a repeated thing throughout this documentary is he refers to himself as the Son of God, which is okay.
Yeah.
If you mean it in a religious sense, because yes, we are all the children of God, but he compares himself to Jesus himself when he's writing, or I shouldn't say writing, he had other people do it. When he was attempting to rap, he'd be like, oh, I don't want you to see what it's like when Jesus walks on water. I don't want you to see. And I'm like, the balls on you to compare yourself to the Jesus Christ. You know, like, and he did, and we'll get into, he did so many things that he should have been arrested for way back in the 90s.
100%. There's a million different things that, or there's a million different things that I think could still be tied to him for various reasons that, you know, now that things are starting to come out and people are starting to speak out on different things, you'll probably see more and more. I don't think it's going to be the end of his story as far as things that happen, jail time, stuff like that. I think more and more is going to happen because as of now, too, there's a whole bunch of civil cases out there too. So who's to say more and more people don't start coming out with different things? And
the only bad thing about it, and I would never want to say he's a smart person, but he does come across as slightly, I mean, he's a businessman, but all of the crimes that he's being charged for now, they're awful, but they're not, they're not life sentence awful.
No.
But the crimes that I think that he was behind, and you know which one, because I am I am so mad about it. But there are two things specifically. Actually, there's three things specifically that I think he was behind. That would be life sentences.
Oh, 100%.
But he found people to do the dirty work for him. He never had, for lack of a better term, he was never caught holding a smoking gun.
No. But signs point to certain things. So I definitely understand. Why don't we hop into the main trial, and then start from there? We'll branch out into all these other things that we definitely want to talk about.
Yeah.
So basically 2023, 2024, Cassie, a longtime ex-girlfriend of his, she came out and basically said that, you know, she was assaulted, raped, trafficked to other men, all through Diddy. She was the first to really come out. Then there were multiple other people that kind of came forward after, because, you know, sometimes people, with somebody like him being a powerful mogul and all that stuff, some people don't want to speak out in fear of, you know, their safety or any, you know, retribution.
Right. Well, and some of these allegations happened before the big Me Too movement. So it did kind of, you know, back in the 90s or even the early 2000s, women weren't really believed if they came out and said, hey, this person assaulted me. And let's be honest, and I mean, I'm a female too, and I think it's sometimes like, if you come out and say, oh, this big famous person who has women throwing themselves at him assaulted me, I'd be like, are you just looking for some money?
You're just looking for a payday.
Yeah, because you think like all these women are throwing themselves at him. Why would he need to assault somebody? So I could see why a lot of these people didn't come forward in the beginning.
And Cassie, in her own right, was a pretty well-established musician. She did music and stuff like that. Now, to play devil's advocate, a lot of people say she didn't speak up because it was benefiting her at the time, which it doesn't matter. I mean, if it's something, it could be 20 years from now and she could have said something. It doesn't change the fact that it happened.
Well, and let's be honest, you know, especially after that video came out, which I was going to put a clip in the show tonight, but I didn't know how far we could push it, because we're going to probably be saying some words that could probably get us canceled too. But let's be honest, he was abusing her. And there are a lot of women that stay in abusive relationships, not because it benefits them or not because of the money, but because they're scared. And, Diddy had the money and he had the power to make Cassie, quote unquote, disappear. There's a lot of death that happens around Diddy that somehow he just manages to find his way out of it. So if I were her, I would be scared too. Like, you're leaving one of the most famous men in the world. Nobody's going to believe you. If you leave, he already beats you. Is he going to do something to the point of killing you?
Well, that's one of the things that comes out after all this stuff is the hotel video that they show in the documentary, where she's got a bag. She's, heading towards the hotel elevator looking to get out. And, he comes in the towel and, basically throws her to the floor, starts doing all this other stuff to her. And that part of the story, one of the people that they talked to during the trial, they was one of the guy at the front desk in charge of the videos, and like basically Diddy paid him to make the video go away, basically. And obviously that didn't happen. So, but that's,
Well, and, some of the things, like I did look into her testimony and the things that she claimed happened to her. And a lot of the things that he did were very degrading. Yeah. And if anybody is squeamish or gets uncomfortable, maybe tonight's not the show for you. But, one of the things that he did to her, and it's terrible, I can never imagine, is he would have these freak off parties. And she said that there was an instance where he would make her take these drugs. She was laying on the ground. He was urinating into her mouth and all over her face to where she was choking and practically drowning on his urine. That's degrading. And, if you're beaten down enough, you're going to think you're not good enough for anybody else either. And that's just some of the things. Like, there was we'll say male sex worker. I don't really, prostitute, but when you think escort, prostitute, you think, yes, he was a male escort. He was very expensive. Diddy would rent this man to come sleep with her and have sex with her. And then he would bottle this man's semen and make Cassie drink it later on, because he liked to watch her drink it.
He liked to watch her play with it. That's what they talked to the man, like this escort guy, on the documentary. So, a lot of the times this wouldn't be just like, a quick 1-2 hour thing. It'd be going on for 30 hours. 30 hours. That's insane to me.
Oh, yeah. And that's why I think he made them take, because there are people saying that when they would do these acts, or when Diddy would force them, the first thing he would do is make them take ecstasy or do coke or something to keep them going. And that's why the baby oil is involved too, because let's be honest, a human body cannot be fornicating for 30 hours.
Yeah, 30 hours straight. Yeah.
Things are going to dry up. It just doesn't work that way.
That's one of the things he said too. Because they talked to this guy during the trial, but then he also did the interview for the Netflix documentary. He's talking about how, like, the man asked Cassie, "How do you guys do this for so long?" And that's when she pulled out the baggie of ecstasy and like basically talked him into taking it. And he said he could see, because it just keeps you awake and like keeps you going, type of thing. So there's drugs involved, obviously all sorts of illegal things going on.
Yeah. So he was technically arrested on racketeering, conspiracy, sex trafficking by force, fraud, and then also transportation to engage in prostitution, as well as transportation for purpose for prostitution. And these were all charges that were brought on due to Cassie's claim. And then I do believe the male prostitute that we're talking about, I believe he was a witness. There was a woman from the 90s that came out that said she was sexually assaulted.
Yeah,
there was,
he was anonymous. Yeah.
Yeah, she is in the documentary though. But at the time of the case, she was anonymous.
She was anonymous. Okay.
There were different artists that came forward and said that they were sexually assaulted or harassed. I know Don from one of his groups came forward and had a lawsuit. Aubrey O'Day has not been quiet about what happened to her. No. And she has legitimate proof of the things that he was saying and texting and emailing her.
And then obviously there's one part in the documentary where she reads an indictment from somebody that she didn't even know who she was, but saw, things going on as she was looking for a bathroom with Audrey O'Day that she didn't even know about. And the lady clearly said, she signed off on like basically perjury, like stuff like that. Like it was 100% her that she saw basically unwillingly being a participant in one of these get-togethers with Diddy and I guess a security guard. That's here or nor there, but like that's something she didn't even know about because she was probably either drugged or who knows what happened.
Well, and those are just some of the things that actually came out because there's allegations of murder. There is an inmate who tells a very detailed story of a murder that Diddy had planned and was going to pay for. And then there are lyrics in a song that back that up. Then, he stole from people. He, I don't want to say laundered money, but practically did. He made promises to people and never fulfilled. He would hire people and never pay. He used a lot of fear and threatening to get what he wanted.
Exactly. And that's, stuff that isn't even part of this trial. A lot of it. It's stuff the documentary talks about. But ultimately, in March of 2024, he's arrested. The grand jury indicts him on these charges. Eventually, they do drop, some of the charges, but they do go after him for the trafficking, the transportation in prostitution. They drop the racketeering and stuff like that because they had enough other stuff I think to go after. But after they arrest him, they do seize a lot of his stuff. They go to 3 of his houses, one Miami, New York, and LA. Take basically all of his laptops, electronic devices. They find drugs, obviously. The ketamine is one, ecstasy, lots of that. 1,000 bottles of baby oil. That's kind of where that, those memes started online with all the baby oil. Yeah.
Yeah.
And they did get some weapons too. Illegally modified AK rifles that not registered or anything like that.
Yeah.
He pleads not guilty, obviously, because that's what you're going to do. Sorry, what were you going to say?
No, you're right. He pled not guilty because, of course, that's what he's going to do. But when he was arrested and he went, I think, how do I say it? I think when Cassie came out, it was a good thing because when he was arrested, there are numerous witnesses that came forward too. And one of them was a former girlfriend. She was a witness and they did call her Jane. She wanted to remain anonymous. There was I guess they're calling him an ex-dancer escort that came forward. There was a former assistant that came forward. There were staff members that came forward. Certain celebrities came forward, like Kid Cudi. His old partner, Kurt, came forward. So I don't think all these people who were that close to him are going to come forward because they're really not getting anything out of it. They're not, it's not like they're going to get millions and millions of dollars, but.
Yeah, exactly. What are they really going to get out of any of it? So them coming forward is more because they want to at that point than anything to gain out of it. They do deny him bail, which I think was probably the right move based on who he was, because they were worried about him trying to get a hold of all these people and try to make these things go away through whatever tactic, whether it be throwing money on it or whatnot. So the judge vehemently denied bail. He said, no, absolutely not, because it's not a good idea. So he was in jail this whole time up to the trial. Eventually, the charges they did drop, because initially he was up for arson, attempted kidnapping, and aiding sex trafficking. Those 3 charges were dropped. I don't know if they really had enough to go off of or whatnot, but I mean, there's already the other ones were bigger ones anyway.
True, but I do think they should have at least kept the kidnapping, because
that story.
I mean, if you're holding somebody against their will for whatever reason, that's technically kidnapping, whether they're your spouse or not. But yeah, that one was dropped.
So, obviously, one of the key witnesses during the trial was Cassie, who we talked about. Kid Cudi actually testified as well about a story where him and Cassie, towards the end of Diddy's relationship with her, were kind of, not, I don't want to say doing stuff on the side, but they were talking. They would go on hikes. They would do all this stuff. He found out about it, Diddy, and apparently this is where the kidnapping charge, I think, came from. He went to, I can't remember her name right now, the basically his assistant, Diddy's assistant, Capricorn, can't remember that's first name or last name, said, hey, let's go. We're going to Cudi's house because, I know, and and all this stuff. And he's like, basically said, I'm going to go kill him. So he kidnaps his assistant and takes him with her to Kid Cudi's house and breaks in. Thankfully, Cudi was not there, but he had all intents to go and, kill him, as far as what she said. But he testifies to that about the breaking in, because I don't know. I'm assuming he had cameras, but I never saw any of that stuff. But somebody like that probably has cameras on their houses and stuff like that. So I assume he knew it was him because of that. But
well, and it all of this, doing the research and watching the documentary and really looking into this case, there were a lot of things that had happened throughout the years that were red flags that I think people just either overlooked, wrote off, didn't call him out on it or whatever. I mean, because like you said, he went after Kid Cudi for jealousy. But when he met Cassie, he was still married to Kim Porter.
Yes.
Which, ironically, is another person in the path of Diddy that has passed away. Now, the claim of death is pneumonia, but the people who knew her knew that she was more of the sassy type. She was not one that let Diddy really run the show in their home. They did have a lot of kids together, but yeah, he was with Kim Porter when he was kind of with Cassie. And then Kim Porter, like I said, was one of many that have passed away.
There's a whole trail of bodies in Diddy's story that
starting
keep
from
popping
the
up.
90s.
Yes. We'll get to. We'll finish the case, and then we'll hop into all those, because there's a lot of stuff there too that I want to get into. So after all this stuff, they close the case. They give their final arguments. The jury deliberated for the first day for 12 hours. So one of the things I don't agree with on such a high-profile case, they didn't sequester the witnesses. They got to go back to their rooms, watch TVs and stuff like that. So they were seeing everything everybody else was having to say. On something like this, I don't think that should have been the case. I think they should have been just not say held. I don't know. Sequestered is the word, where they can't see. They don't have any outside influences.
But with that too, though, I mean, if you're going into it, because a lot of this, before he was arrested, there was nothing in the news about the things that he has done up to this point. So even if you would have isolated them, I think somebody going in, if they were a Diddy fan, they're going to vote in his favor. I think in something like this, it needed to be a judge decision.
Mm-hmm.
There have been other high profile cases where there is no jury. It is just defendant, prosecution, judge, and the judge makes the final decision. And I think it would have been better if that would have happened, because I think judges hopefully will think more logical and more lawfully versus, a group of people that could possibly be a fan of Diddy. And, sometimes you have these super fans that these people can do no wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's the absolute truth. You see these people lining up outside the courthouses, cheering him on like he's this big superhero, and really, in reality, he's not.
He's a
Because
horrible person.
Exactly, and you've already you've talked about that. You asked your opinion, you were thumbs down about him.
Yeah.
Right after that, so.
I think as soon as we logged in, I was like, I hate this man.
Yeah. So after 3 days, they found him not guilty on the racketeering conspiracy and the sex trafficking involving Cassie and this other woman that was unidentified at the time. But he was found guilty on 2 counts of transportation for the purpose of prostitution. And that carried a maximum sentence of 20 years. He was denied bail again. They were looking to, get bail so he could be out and about, but denied bail for all that. The defense requested that he only got 14 months. Did you see that?
Mm-hmm.
That's what they wanted. 14 months the defense did, which, at that point with time served would have been like an extra month in jail.
Yeah.
Which is crazy. The prosecution wanted 135 months, but at the end, it was the judge ordered him to 4 years and 2 months and a $500,000 fine. So he still got maybe 2 more years, I think.
Yeah, and I think when he gets out, he still has 5 years of it's a 5-year supervised release. But if this, and this is what makes me mad, is because it is Diddy, that I think that's why the sentencing was so light.
Yeah.
Because if this were anybody else,
they're never coming out.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been to this extent. But if anybody else held a woman, beat her, raped her, had other people practically rape her, along with multiple other women and men, because there weren't just women that came forward.
Yeah.
They would never see the light of day again.
Absolutely not.
People, and even in a jury, they would have hung him in the town square.
Yeah, absolutely. But because of being who he is and all of that, I think he definitely got too light.
Yeah.
But that's what he is in jail for now. Let's talk about, there are so many other things in this documentary that he could be guilty of many other things that, according to 50 Cent and everybody else involved with the documentary.
Okay, so let's just get the elephant in the room, or let's get it out. Tupac. I have said for years, before this arrest, before the documentary, just knowing the beef between Death Row and Bad Boys, just knowing these, I don't want to say gang related, because they were rappers, and there were some people that were really, Tupac was kind of hood. He was pretty hood. Biggie was, but Pac was way tougher than what Diddy was. And this beef that was going on, it goes back to jealousy. Biggie and Tupac, everybody thinks that, they were rivals and they were this and that, and that's why, one shot the other, whatever. But in reality, they were vibing. They were good friends. Yeah. They were touring together. They were rapping together.
Tupac took Biggie on tour with him. They were good friends.
Yeah, they were really good friends. And I think, going back to the jealousy, I don't think Diddy liked that, because Biggie was one of his first real artists that he brought on to Bad Boy, because he didn't start at Bad Boy. But that was something that he had co-founded with a friend of his, or so we thought.
So we thought.
So originally, Diddy had grown up in a decent home. I guess his father was a drug dealer, but his mom did kind of give Diddy the finer things. He went to college for business, ironically. And then he actually started interning at Uptown Records. And that's where he got his foot into music. And that's where he really was like, I want to do this. I like it. And he was good at it. He was kind of good with like schmoozing people. But eventually he was fired. And he started and co-founded Bad Boy Entertainment with a friend of his, Kirk Burroughs. And you would think when you're co-founding something that it's going to be 50-50. It wasn't that way. So Diddy had given 75% of Bad Boy to his mother, which is smart. And he gave 25% to Kirk. And Kirk did all the work. He did the payroll. He did the paperwork. He did the taxes. He made that place run while Diddy was out recruiting and smoozing and making the connections, which it actually works. That's a pretty good partnership. But when Diddy started bringing on the bigger artists, you know, the Biggies and the Faith Evans and the Craig Mack and, you know, all these bigger people, he actually went in, and this has never come out until recently because Kirk himself said that he just didn't, he was feared, or he feared Diddy. Diddy went into his office with a baseball bat, threatened to kill him in his office if he did not sign over his 25% of the business to Diddy. And he had a baseball bat. He was swinging it around, you know, threatening all this stuff. And Kirk ended up signing it over. And Diddy said, don't worry, I'll give it back to you.
Yeah,
and,
well, of course.
Right. And at that point, Bad Boy was, I mean, it was up and
one of the
coming.
biggest things.
It was doing well. Yeah, it was, you know, I mean, hell, how many times was Biggie, or Notorious B.I.G., if people don't call him Biggie, how many times was he at number one? You know,
lot,
and so it's just, it's weird. And then with the music, the fact that he didn't pay his artist, you know, there were some artists on here that are pretty big, and they never really made money. And I know I'm one of those people, like TLC, they weren't affiliated with it, but you know, you're this massive group, and then you're filing bankruptcy. Like,
yeah, you're not.
Yeah,
something doesn't sound right.
Right. So it just kind of. But then I guess, you know, younger, you don't realize how business works, and people are doing what they're doing and whatever. But Biggie and Tupac, they were becoming some of the biggest in the rap game.
So for people who don't know about Bad Boy and what's the other? Oh, I'm blanking on this. Bad Boy and what's the West Coast? Death Row Records? Yes, that's it. That's the West Coast, and then Bad Boy Records is the East Coast, and it's kind of a little bit of a rivalry going on because you know one coast thinks they're better than the other, and that's kind of where, you know, this rift starts to come between everybody, is because of this little rivalry going on between the coasts. One thing I want to mention too. Do you know the reason why he signed 75% of Bad Boy over to his mother? Did you see that part?
Probably because he's I'll keep it to myself.
So one of the first things he was involved with was promoting this event in New York, and they oversold tickets, overbooked, and 9 people died because they were trampled. And he was worried that, you know, they were going to come after him for that and like take money. So he put that stuff in his mom's name, so they couldn't take it from her, right? Because it's not her, it's him. So that's the whole reason for that, because he's already, you know, shady stuff going on before anything else. So
before they even blew up.
Yeah. But go ahead.
No, go ahead.
I was about to say, obviously Biggie and Tupac were going out on tour and stuff like that, and I think that started to sit wrong with Diddy, and like this is his guy. It should be him and not this other guy and him. So that's kind of, I think, where the beef kind of started a little bit.
Yeah. I think it was because, Tupac was already big. He was already big on the West Coast. He had a name. He was going. Biggie was up and coming, and he was doing so well. And Diddy wanted that friendship. He wanted that this is my artist and only my artist.
Yeah.
And I don't know if or if you saw this or anything, but Diddy tried to recruit Pac, and he wanted nothing to do with it. And I think that also fed into this feud between Diddy and Pac.
100%. So at one point, I know Suge Knight, he's the Death Row Records. He's their big wig. Yeah, he's their big wig. He's the boss. He's running it.
He's boss, but he's like, what was he, like 6'5", 6'7", and like
big dude,
400 pounds. Like,
yeah,
I would want to mess with him.
At one point, as tensions were rising between everybody, Suge Knight and this guy Big Jake go to a party in Atlanta, and Diddy's at this party.
And it was Diddy's party.
It was Diddy's party in Atlanta, yeah. They all go outside, and this guy runs up to him and shoots this guy Big Jake. And like Suge Knight grabs Diddy and starts holding him, and Diddy's telling him, you got nothing to worry about. You got nothing to worry about. Like, how the hell do you know he's got nothing to worry about? Like, his buddy that he was with just got shot and murdered outside this party. And from there, things just kept getting worse. That's the catalyst that drove everything else to happen.
That's the first killing that could be technically by Diddy's hands.
I agree. I think that's the first one in a series of events that happens after that. Yeah. So,
because I think Tupac was one, because Tupac, when he got shot and was killed, that was not the first time he was shot. And I know people will say, well, he had affiliates with gang members, and yes, they all did. But it's just ironic that every time, I shouldn't say every time, but every time that Tupac got shot, Diddy was there.
Diddy was around, yeah.
And same with Biggie. When Biggie got shot, Diddy was there.
So the rumor that they talked about in the documentary was that Diddy is talking to the Crips, which is a big gang in California. And he basically was joking around, I guess, but not really joking. He said he'd pay them to get him. All the Death Row people had these chains that had, the logo and everything on it. He said, I'd pay you if you get me one of those. So at some point, these Crips come across. They didn't say the guy's name at this mall, and they jump him, and that gets back to the Death Row people, and then we get to where the biggest part of this story comes. Mike Tyson, big thing. Obviously the biggest fighter of all time, one of them anyway.
Another man I'll defend.
Exactly. He's got a fight in Vegas, and Tupac is there with Suge Knight. As they're walking after the fight into the lobby of the I think it's like the MGM Grand, they find the guys, like they basically say this is the guy that jumped this other guy, so they jump this guy in the lobby of the place, and then they hurry up and get out of there. I think it was like 30 minutes later or something, car pulls up next to them and starts shooting at their car, and that's where both Suge Knight and Tupac were shot, but Tupac actually passed away. That was
and they were actually on their way to a club, to Suge's club, and
these people were waiting there. Is what the rumors are, because they talked to one of the guys that's in prison.
Yeah. So a part of the documentary that I found really interesting, because I didn't know, and I'm a Tupac fan. You can probably tell by the way I get mad about it. This guy, he was a gang member, and he's currently in jail, and he tells in detail step by step of how they were shot, what they were shot with, how they hid the guns. And he even talks about how he is standing on the corner with all the spectators watching the ambulance come to try to help them. And he says it's funny. And, you know, the investigator asks, well, why did you do it? And he's like, well, Diddy said he'd give me $1 million if I shot Pac and Suge. And the guy's like, he said he would give you $1 million. He goes, yeah, he put $1 million on their head. And not funny, but the interesting thing about that is that guy never got paid.
No, Keefe D, that's who it was.
Yes, but somebody from Diddy's side did say that once Pac was shot and killed, once he was officially said once he was pronounced dead, Suge didn't die, that Diddy had wired $500,000 to the head of the gang of the Crips.
Yeah.
And that guy was supposed to give it to the one who shot him. And when he was like, well, why only 500? He's like, well, only one died, not both. And then that guy, I forget his name, the head of the Crips. Yes. Oh, yeah. He ended up dying of cancer. And that guy never even got the money for it.
Yeah. The only guy, so there's apparently 3 guys in this car that were involved in the shooting. 2 of them are dead. And the one guy is the guy that's saying all this stuff in jail. So there's only 2 people on earth that know the real story that are still alive, I think. And it'd be this Keefe D who's in jail and Diddy.
Yeah.
And nobody's really talking. So.
And, you know, with the guy accusing Diddy, that's, you know, again, that's not a smoking gun because inmates are known for giving information if they think it's going to help them get a lesser sentence or get out early or whatever the case is. So can you believe him? No, because he is a killer. He is part of the gang. That's how he grew up. But I also don't know. I don't know. He just knows too many details. And then even a song right after Pac was killed, Diddy says, I put $1 million on your head. I won't sing the rest because it's explicit, but you know. Well, and then even Biggie, because even though Biggie was part of his label and supposedly one of his best friends, there's a lot of speculation that he had a hand in having Biggie shot too. Maybe not put a hit on him or anything like that, but Biggie wanted nothing to do with the West Coast. He wanted to stay on the East Coast. He wanted to do his thing. He wanted to be safe. He wanted nothing to do with the West Coast and that drama and the Bloods and the Crips. He didn't want it. And Diddy kept dragging him out there. And when they were supposed to go on a trip overseas, actually, Biggie was supposed to go and Diddy canceled last minute. And then ironically, it was like that night that Biggie was shot and killed. So it's just, there's a lot of things that just don't make sense.
It doesn't sit right.
Right. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of death that follows Diddy. And even in the documentary, which I hope you guys all watch it, there's so much more. Like there's people that are shot and killed while in the studio bathroom with Diddy. And where it's Diddy and his son. And these producers are like, what the hell? But then they're threatened. Like, you better act like nothing happened. And this happened on the street. It didn't happen here. You know, and there's people who know what Diddy has done. And for I know one of his sons, I think his son has a lot to do with some of the things that has happened. But he probably will never be charged or convicted of any of it. But there's just, and then even, like I said, his wife, Kim Porter, you know, she files for divorce and ironically she dies of pneumonia.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff here that I think should probably be investigated more.
The shooting, I don't even think this was in the documentary, but the shooting when he was dating J-Lo and they were at the club.
Yeah, at that party, and
that woman was shot in the face and there were other people shot. And one of his artists took the rap for it and he's in prison. I think he's still in jail. I don't remember his name.
I'm not sure. Yeah.
But I don't understand
Uh-huh.
how all of this is blatantly in our faces.
Mm-hmm.
And he is just getting accused of these things recently.
Yeah.
You know, and these Diddy parties, these black and white parties, they are massive.
Yeah.
Huge, hundreds of people invited to these parties. And it's, you know, celebrity Usher, Ashton Kutcher, you know, Paris Hilton, all these people. And none of them speculated?
Yeah,
or did they just sweep it under the rug because that's what you do when you're a celebrity?
That's what you do, probably, yeah. Who's to say there's not more people out there that have stories too that haven't come forward? And
well, let's bring up Usher. Usher lived with Diddy when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
And Bieber was a baby.
Yeah.
Not really a baby, but he was like 13. And Diddy had him come stay with him and said, I'm going to mold you into, you know, whatever.
Yeah.
And I don't know. There's something sketchy about it that just doesn't sit right.
I want to go back to the Biggie thing for a second, because I thought they really did a good job on the documentary, like chronicling like this whole thing. A lot of it, so I'm gonna say obviously it's just speculation because there's nothing saying it's true, but Biggie started getting a little more popular than
I thought you were gonna say Biggie was getting big.
Yeah, he was kind of getting big. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like he was doing interviews and magazines and stuff like that, and I think that started to upset him because, like, no, that's me. I'm bigger. I should be doing these things.
Well, and as Biggie's agent, there were things that were offered to Biggie that Diddy blocked and took himself over giving it to Biggie, who has put in the work.
So I do think there's something. I do think Diddy had a lot to gain off of Biggie's passing. Because look at the number one hits he had right after and all this stuff because of capitalizing on that situation.
Well, I'll Be Missing You is one of the biggest songs.
That shot to number one immediately. To the point where, to me, looking at it now, you see the MTV Music Awards and they show the clip on the thing of, there's this big production and he comes out dancing and all this stuff. And to me, it's like he's dancing on his grave. And it's so wrong with me watching it now. Just knowing like all this stuff that you find out.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, it even goes back to before that, the violence. He was dating a girl, Misa, and people witnessed him beating her, like on the street next to a car. And there's multiple girlfriends which also makes me angry because, I mean, I'm not a man, but as a man, if you see another man physically abusing a woman, like, I feel you should step in. I mean, hell, I would step in if I saw a man hitting a woman. And for these men, and they admit it, they straight out admit it, that they witnessed Diddy beating Cassie and ex-girlfriends and even Kim Porter and, Misa, and they just didn't do anything.
Yeah.
They just said, oh yeah, he shut the door and she came out black and blue crying.
One of the things I remember a quote from the documentary was like, he never hit them in the face because that was their moneymaker. And I said, yeah, I mean, one, that's your evidence right there. Like a lot of the other stuff, it's easy to hide. So yeah, can we talk about how Diddy puts on this huge funeral for Biggie too, and then uses Biggie's own money to pay for it? What the fuck is that?
Yeah, about? I know you were mad about that. You're mad about that when I was about Tupac.
Are you kidding me?
Yeah,
he couldn't even pay for his own buddy. Yeah, he's using Biggie's money to pay for it. I'm like, what the hell?
And he told nobody.
No.
So he did. He put on this massive funeral with beautiful flowers and hearses and limos and brought in some of the most, I mean, Queen Latifah was there, some of the biggest names of that time. And everybody was like, oh my God, Diddy and Biggie were such great friends. That's a great thing for him to do. And all along, Diddy was using Biggie's money.
Yeah. That pissed me off. I said, that's so, like, wouldn't you give that money to his family and then, you know, cover that yourself? So that's like the first kind of thing that set me off. I'm like, all right, well, this whole thing seems kind of fishy now. Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
Well, and there were a lot of artists that came forward. I mean, they're still alive and they weren't abused necessarily, but there were a lot that came forward after Biggie's death that they had been talking about going to death row, or they had been talking about going to other record labels. And with the death of Biggie, they backed out of music completely because they felt if they left that they were going to be next. I mean, if these two giant people in the industry, or, you know, Tupac, Biggie, Suge, all of them were just shot within months of each other. You know, this artist who really isn't, I mean, they were big, but they weren't that big.
Yeah.
You know, people started leaving. People started backing out.
Yeah.
Well, and there's just there's multiple people that have said, you know, that Diddy owes them money. He never paid.
Yeah.
Or he would
use that over their head as like a bargaining chip, I guess. Like, you know, you work for me, you're gonna get famous, but I'm not paying. Like one of the guys that has a civil suit against him now he worked on Diddy's last album like a year before he got arrested. And he went into detail in the documentary about, you know, these long hours they were working. He missed Christmases with his family, birthdays, all that stuff to help with this album. And like a lot of times he talks about waking up in bed with random people or with Diddy, like just he blacks out. And, you know, all these weird stories about like things that don't make sense.
Well, and that's what a lot of people say is they would go to these parties and they'd be offered a drink. And, you know, you think you're among friends. And next thing you know, you're blacked out, waking up to a random stranger naked in a bed with a video camera, let alone. That's the other thing that I don't think we mentioned in the case is not only was he forcing, and it was forcing the things that he would ask Cassie to do, or these male escorts, or even other people, other women. He would watch. He would sit there and watch, and he would videotape it. And then that's the other thing that I completely forgot about. Another reason why Cassie may not have come forward for a while is he has videos upon videos upon videos of you having intercourse with sex workers.
Yeah.
Male escorts. You know, and he's not partaking in it. He's sitting in a corner. So he could release that.
It's the fear of it being released and her being all over the place. Yeah.
Well, and he could release it and then acted like he never sat in frame. So he's there forcing them to do these things. But if he releases it, it looks like he had no part in it. So that's another fear too. I mean, you don't want, well, most people don't want that all over the internet.
No.
And I think he used that as blackmail for some of these people too, because she was not the only one that claimed of waking up after realizing that they were roofied or drugged or whatever. There were multiple women.
Yeah. There's a whole list of people.
And, you know, not to sound mean, but these women were, for lack of a better term, nobodies. So nobody's going to believe them. If they come up and say, oh, you know, Diddy drugged me and raped me, they're going to be like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
You know.
That's exactly it. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people will see a lot of these stories of, like, the nobodies you said, and just be like, nah, they're just looking for a payday because of who he is. Which I don't agree with, because I think everybody's got the right to tell their story without that kind of judgment. But I think because, you know, bigger people started coming forward, like the Cassie and stuff like that. Now it's starting to I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of people that haven't said anything, and there's probably more that will eventually, when the time is right for them to tell their stories. But yeah, not good at all.
Well, and he always talks about praying and doing what God wants him to do. I can't wait for that day.
Yeah,
I can't wait for that judgment day.
yeah.
I hope God records that one and saves it for when I get up there. I think I'm going up there, but
I think we're all good. We're not doing some wacky shit. So,
well, I don't think his elevator's going up.
No, his elevator's broken. It's gonna free fall.
Yeah, it's a sad thing, and there's so much more that we could say and could talk about, but again, like, we don't know what will get us kicked off and what won't.
I would definitely recommend to anybody listening, go watch the Netflix documentary. It's called Sean Combs: The Reckoning. Masterful. If you're interested to learn more about like details and everything, I've watched it twice because I watched it the first time for fun, and the second time I watched just the other day for taking notes and stuff like that. But it's good. I would recommend if you've ever been curious about like a lot of the things that he was doing and some of these stories for more details, go watch that because he said did a great job.
The proof that people have, because with again, Diddy is one of the biggest in the industry. It could be a situation of just blame and trying to get money and all this stuff, but the proof that these people have, the videos, the text messages, the emails, I mean, lyrics that never made it into songs where he's talking about killing people that are not here anymore. It's insane, the amount of evidence. I guess it's all circumstantial, but after watching it and really digging into some of the things in this case, like I thought I knew a lot and I was blown away. Even with the Tupac stuff, like I told you, I have always thought that Diddy had something to do with it, even before all of this. And watching it and really digging into, like, I learned things about that I didn't know. So it's I mean, it's a good watch. Don't watch it around kids.
No,
I would say no kids that are under the age of like 15. Because it's not blurred. It's not graphic, beeped. It is full on all kinds of language, bad language, curse words, racist words, all kinds of things. So just be mindful of who's in the room when you watch it.
Let me ask you a question. What do you think happens when he finally gets out of jail?
I think celebrities are going to be too weary to have that friendship. I think I don't know. I think he has money. I think he's going to be able to just live not secretly, but just live a life of whatever. Because I think anybody that would have tried to do harm, that would have been back in the 90s when the gang on gang, the West Coast, East Coast thing was real big. I don't think somebody's going to come out and like try to put a hit on him. Especially with it being in Diddy, you're going to get caught. Like, you know. It's in today's day and age, you can't really get away with anything. I think it's going to be one of those situations where he gets released and we don't hear anything from him until he dies.
Yeah.
He's just going to live his money or live on his money. And the only thing that really sucks is every song from the 90s and 2000s has Diddy on it, in it, wrote it, but it's like every song has something to do with Diddy, and I'm like, dang it, you ruined so many good songs.
You ruined a lot,
yeah.
Unfortunately, like you could still listen to a lot of his stuff. It's all over Spotify and all that stuff. Yeah, like I don't know. It's just weird to me that somebody like that could still have all their stuff out there and still be making money off of it.
And what I think should happen is any of those royalties should go to somebody that's not to victims, to Kirk, who he screwed out of Bad Boy, Cassie for the abuse she dealt with. I mean, I think that money should go I almost said a bad word. Go to Biggie's mom. Yeah. Because even Biggie's mom said she thinks Diddy killed him.
Yeah. Crazy. That was crazy. Yeah. All of it's crazy.
I do have to laugh though. So my office is in the spare bedroom, right? So anytime we have guests over, like we have a spare bedroom and that's where my office is. And I realized on Christmas, my son got a new bed and he had like a platform, like bunk bed kind of thing. And we took it apart and we put it in my office. And this is what you see behind me. And I had to giggle because I'm like, we're covering Diddy and it looks like I have a cage around the bed. Like, whoops, bad timing. Just a bunk bed taken apart.
Yeah. Yeah, it looks. I mean, to me, it just looks like a baby crib back there.
Oh, okay, good. Maybe I shouldn't have said anything.
Yeah, I would have never known until you said that. So,
but I don't have a baby.
Exactly.
No, just a bunk bed taken apart. But you know what? We have some exciting things coming up. I mean, we are still doing. We're really bad at this every other week. Have you noticed?
Yeah.
So we'll be on next week, and we actually it's going to be kind of cool. It's kind of a collaboration. So we are starting at 7:00 on a different podcast, which we will be promoting and posting pictures all through social media this week. And then from 7 to 8, we're going to be on their podcast. And then at 8, we're going to transition and they are going to be on our podcast. So it's going to be 2 hours, 2 teams, 2 podcasts, 1 collab. Great. I think it's cool. I'm excited for it. And then we have a week off. And then we have a new author that's going to be on. See, it was my notes that was making me look jaundiced. No, and then we have an author that's going to be on who wrote a paranormal kinds of horror book, and it's not even released yet. So I'm kind of excited. Nate and I got the first copy of it. So we're going to be the first 2 people to read it. And then we're going to show a couple different things on here, and he wants our opinion on covers and things like that. So I think that'll be really cool.
That'll be a fun one. Yeah.
That will be fun. And then after that, I think we're going to try to do every other week, like we said, through the winter.
Yeah. Here and there. We'll be on. Look for us.
Yeah. By the way, I like your hoodie.
The Stranger Things?
Yeah. I haven't watched it yet.
You better go watch it. It's good.
I'm watching Yellowstone right now.
All right.
So
I've heard good things about that one too, but
I like it. That is one that you also, you won't have to worry, but that's when you have to be mindful of who's around because it is.
Okay. Yeah.
There's some episodes that are fine and there's some that are woo.
Daisy doesn't care what I watch. So.
she watches too.
But
with that, like I said, we'll be back next week. We will start posting links of where you can see us at 7, and then we will have pictures and bios and everything. So you guys will have to stay tuned to just see who we might be having on the show.
Sounds like a plan to me.
Any final words?
I got nothing. My mind is shot with all this Diddy stuff. So
I know, and we only covered like this much.
Just a tiny little bit. So
we could go on for hours, but we've missed you guys. We'll be on next week and then every other week. But until then, we'll see you later.
Bye. Everybody.